I am on a bit of a fantasy kick right now. After working my way through Stephen King's The Stand, one of the most intense and exhausting but definitely worthwhile reading experiences of my entire life, I turned to T. Kingfisher and her novel Paladin's Grace for some cozy, fun, romantic, escapist fantasy joy, and that is exactly what I got, and it put me in the mood for more. So, as I said in my last video, I read a few fantasy books in July, but I'm not done yet. Here next to me is a small stack of fantasy novels that I'm going to be tackling in August. Starting with The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. Now, I am willing to bet a few people watching this are gasping with excitement because this book is massive. Not just in size, it is a pretty beefy thing, but it has taken the fantasy world by storm. The amount of people who have been reading and reviewing and raving about this book is genuinely insane and so exciting. And I know I'm going to start with this because I already have. I'm about 50 pages in, and the first 50 pages is kind of like a prologue. And already, this book, in my opinion, is shaping up to be something quite exquisite. It feels a lot like a Robin Hobb novel, and alongside Joe Abercrombie, Robin Hobb is my favorite fantasy author. Antonia Hodgson is, judging from her author photo, a slightly older fantasy author. She's already written a bunch of historical crime stuff, and this is her first foray into the fantasy world. And that maturity, I think, rings through this book. It has a playfulness, but a playfulness that comes from a mature place, and I am so excited. This book has made me laugh out loud multiple times, but it feels like a very, very smart and interesting twist on the fantasy genre, interweaving mystery into the whole formula. And I'm thrilled. I cannot wait to keep reading this. I'm going to keep reading it after I'm done here. I'm 50 pages in, and I'm so hopeful that this is going to be one of my favorite reads of this year. The hype around it is insane, and I feel it. I feel the electric of that. So I'm going to keep going, and I'll probably end up doing a dedicated video on it if it keeps up with the momentum that it currently has. Next up is a book that I literally picked up earlier today. It was a little treat after finishing therapy. Congratulations to you, Willow. You're getting your brain healthy. That means you deserve a book. That's how it works. Don't tell me otherwise. You can if you want. It's fine. I deserve it. I'm working on that in therapy. Anyway, this is Long Live Evil. I remember when this came out in hardcover, and I was immediately like, half my brain thought, oh, that looks really fun, kind of campy. The cover made it look very, very queer, although it doesn't seem to be. And then the other half of my brain went, that looks lame, that looks tacky, that looks silly. The tagline says, it's time for your villain era, and honestly, that just kind of pissed me off. But there was something in it. I was like, I'm gonna keep an eye on that. It looks kind of fun. And what got me to pick it up was the fact that it's covered in quotes from different fantasy authors, some of whom I like, some of whom I don't. But one of them is Shelley Parker Chan, who I absolutely fucking love. They wrote She Who Became the Sun and its sequel that I can't remember the name of now. And She Who Became the Sun is phenomenal. So if Shelley Parker Chan liked it, that's genuinely good enough for me. I don't really need anything else. And Long Live Evil is also an isekai story, something that I guiltily really enjoy. There are so many bad isekai anime and manga, but the ones that hit, like Konosuba, really hit. And Dungeon Crawler Carl is kind of an isekai as well. So according to the blurb, Long Live Evil is about a young woman who ends up inside her favorite fantasy series and becomes the villain. She assembles a ragtag group of bad guys, and it also mentions an emperor that she finds really hot, and that kind of made me wary. I don't know, I'm still a bit 50-50 on this. But Shelley Parker Chan loved it, and that genuinely drove me to pick it up. So Endorsements like that really work. I really hope this is going to be fun. If you have read it, please let me know in the comments because I need to know what I'm in for and I want it to be fun but also well written. That's a big thing with me. So many people so often tell me that they read bad books because they're fun and lighthearted and you can switch your brain off and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I'm all for that, but I do have a decently high bar when it comes to good writing. A book can be really, really fun and thrilling and engaging, but I still need it to be clever and well written. And I think a perfect example of what I'm talking about is the sci-fi novels of John Scalzi. Every single John Scalzi book you ever read will be fun and funny. You will laugh out loud. They are goofy, they are silly, but my God, are they clever. His books are so smart, so witty, so beautifully well written. They are poignant with interesting messages. He's a wonderful queer ally, but they're still goofy and funny. The Kaiju Preservation Society has a pair of kaiju in it called Edward and Bella, and it's an amazing novel. So I like books that are fun and silly and lighthearted and joyous, but I need them to be well written and clever all the same. I'm really hoping this is that. Another book that I have seen so much hype for is this. Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio. This is a work of epic science fantasy, something along the lines of Star Wars or Dune. And science fantasy is something that I have a lot of time for because it's pulpy, it's fun, it's goofy. I like John Carter. I like Flash Gordon. I love that kind of stuff. And this seems like that kind of fantasy space opera vibe. On the wrong planet at the right time, for the best of reasons, Hadrian Marlowe started down a path that could only end in fire. The galaxy remembers him as a hero, the man who burned every last Kielsin, fantasy names, from the sky. They remember him as a monster, the devil who destroyed a sun, casually annihilating 4 billion human lives, even the emperor himself, against imperial orders. But Hadrian was not a hero, he was not a monster, he was not even a soldier. Fun blurb. Little bit edgelordy, kind of worried this is going to be like a J. Kristoff situation, but I'm hopeful. This has had a lot of hype and buzz around it, so once again, if you've read it, if you've tried it, if you know anything about it, let me know. I did pick this up on a whim because the hype is enormous, and half the time that pays off and half the time it really, really doesn't, so let's see. But something that I am far more confident I'm going to adore is this. The Adventures of Amina AlSarafi. This is a book I picked up months ago and has been sitting at the very back of my TBR for too long, honestly. And now that I'm in a fantasy mood again, I decided, right, this is going to the top of my TBR. I am going to read this month. It's written by Shannon Chakraborty, and she's a big name in fantasy, but I've never read her before. And at the bottom, under her name, is an endorsement from R.F. Kuang, who might be my favorite author now. I can never decide if it's still Kazuo Ishiguro or if she's taken his place. They kind of sit neck and neck. And that's why I've always got the poppy war right here behind me. Amina AlSarafi has survived backstabbing rogues, vengeful merchant princes, several husbands, and one actual demon to retire peacefully with her family to a life of piety and motherhood. But when she's offered a job no bandit could refuse, she jumps at the chance for one final adventure that will make her a legend. Yet the deeper Amina dives, the higher the stakes. For there's always risk in wanting to seize one last chance at glory, and the price might be your very soul. I really need to read this. It sounds joyous and fun and exciting and thrilling. I'm really confident that I'm going to adore this book. R.F. Kuang literally called this fantasy at its best, and I really want it to be. I hear amazing things about Shannon Chakraborty, and I'm glad to finally be reading something by her. A fun and thrilling roguish adventure about a female rogue. There are too many men in the rogue subgenre of fantasy. So I need this to be good, and I'm pretty confident it will be. Here is a book that I picked up fairly recently at my local queer independent bookshop. Shout out to Category Is Books. If you live in Scotland or can get to Scotland or are visiting Scotland anytime soon, come to Glasgow, go to the south side and visit Category Is Books, an independent queer bookshop run by queers, for queers, full of queer books. It's one of my favorite shops in the entire world, and honestly, I don't visit often enough. I should go there like once a week. But I was there recently and I picked up this, a fresh new queer fantasy. Renowned investigator Kembrel Thorne is determined to enjoy herself at the year-turning ball, despite the presence of her nemesis, notorious cat burglar Rika Nunsuch. That is such a good name. But when the guests start dropping dead, Kem has no choice but to get to work. At the heart of the mayhem is a mysterious clock that plunges the ballroom into strange and otherworldly new layers of reality every time it chimes. Kem will have to rely on her wits and Rika to unravel the mystery before catastrophe is unleashed on their world. This sounds like such a blend of genres. It is a mystery story, like a proper Agatha Christie style mystery story set in one place where people are being killed off. Right off the bat, that is awesome, but it also feels like science fantasy. It sounds like it's set in a fantastical world, but with some sci-fi elements to it. It's kind of reminding me of The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, a murder mystery with a sci-fi twist, or a science fantasy with a mystery twist. It's a real blend of genres, and I am so into that. We're seeing so much genre blending right now, and honestly, I can't get enough of it. So I've tried to focus on fantasy books here that do feel like they're blending it with science fiction, with mystery, with romance, with other stuff to make it more dynamic and unique, and I think I've got a good selection here. And again, this is queer. And, on the back are multiple quotes from so many great writers. Alex E. Harrow, Shannon Chakraborty, Andrea Stewart, and Tasha Suri. Those are great commendations. I'm hopeful for this one. And last but well, also maybe least, is Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. Now, the reason I say maybe least is because I actually tried reading this book a few months ago, and I DNF'd it. It's got very mixed reviews. If you look at Goodreads, wow. You either see 5-star or 1-star. And I did see that a few of the 1-star books are complaining about woke stuff. You know the type. So I was like, okay, I can ignore those. But at the same time, yeah, this is a pretty polarizing book. And I did DNF it. I read like 30 pages and just felt like the writing was stodgy and confused. It felt like it didn't know what kind of book it was. And I wasn't feeling very hopeful. I picked it up in like a 2-for-1 sale, thought I'd give it a go, didn't like it, and then looked at all these negative reviews and I was like, oh, okay, maybe that explains it. But I want to give it another go. I'm not done with it yet. After I tried and failed to get through it, I was like, okay, I think I'm done with fantasy for a bit. And like 2 or 3 months later, I'm ready to give it another go. I really want this to be good, and I actually think I have one of her sci-fi novels lying around here somewhere, and I don't think I ever got around to that either. Laura Lamb, that's her name. I don't know where it is. Anyway, Mike Brooks liked this, and Mike Brooks is great, so that's good. It's also queer, that's good. And L.R. Lamb is an American author based here in Scotland, and anyone who moves from California to Scotland is someone I think I'd be friends with because they made a great choice. But also, I'm biased. I love Scotland and I don't like Los Angeles. And yes, LA is the only place in California that I've been, but why am I digging a hole? Why am I digging this hole? Just stop talking about California, Willow. Just turn the camera off. I just don't like LA. So many cars. You can't walk anywhere. Anyway, I'm giving this another go. Scotland. Scotland forever. What is wrong with me? What am I talking about? I think I need a coffee. Okay, so Patreon, buy my book. Tell me if you've read any of these books and if I'm in for a good time or not. And if you'd recommend any other fantasy books that are doing kind of fun genre blending, bending stuff. I'm mad at myself now. Okay, bye. Subscribe for books. That's what I say.